My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me now and we will explore these topics and so much more with fascinating guests, authors, and experts who will guide us to Destination Unlimited. Much like the legendary heroes and heroines of Greek and Roman mythology, we too experience love, hate, failure, and challenges along our way to enlightenment. Though no hero's journey is perfect, we have the power to rise again in cosmic alignment with our inner hero. My guest this week on Destination Unlimited, Letao Wang, has combined these legendary characters, his personal mastery of astrology, a profound understanding of cosmic laws, and his intuitive skills to create the Healing Kingdom. Letao Wang had been confused about life when one fateful meeting with a spiritual counselor in Australia changed everything. Since opening his professional practice in Hong Kong, he has helped many with financial, family, and relationship problems through spiritual counseling. His website is thehealingkingdom.com, and he joins me this week to share his path and just published divination deck and book, Oracle of the Mythic Heroes. Please join me in welcoming to Destination Unlimited, Letao Wang. Welcome, Letao.
Hi, hello, Victor. Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you for joining us and sharing your amazing career and all of this wonderful work that you bring to our world. So please share with us your early path and your early understanding of spirit and nature.
So I actually grew up in a very traditional Chinese family. My parents are never, very spiritual, and they were very traditional. And from the early age, we were, studying things, because I grew up in China, so we had to study, whatever the traditional Chinese kids would learn. But spirituality was never a part of that. And I think when I was a kid, I was really fascinated by, video games and a lot of the game characters. I don't know why. Sometimes I would just let myself drift in my imagination and imagine I would be one of those heroes in the game or in the books. And that was a little bit like my escape from the reality or from, the mundane life. And, of course, that was just always, either you can call that a hobby or something that I like to do, but I never really, thought I would, use my imagination or, use my fascination towards myth, as a career, until I was around 28 or 29 years old, I remember. Because I was working in the finance for many, many years, but I was just not very inspired. Every day I was doing my job because I needed to pay my rent, because I needed to live up to the expectations from either my parents or from the so-called the society, right? If you are let's say 20, 27, 28-year-old guy, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to put on a suit. You're supposed to go to your job and earn a salary. And of course, during that period of time, I had a lot of struggles because I didn't really know what my motivation was and who I was. Before that, I think around I was maybe 24, 25, I spent some time studying overseas. And that's when I met my spiritual teacher, who actually officially introduced me to Greek mythology, because that's a very important part when we study astrology. And when I encountered Greek mythology, I felt I met my soulmate. I felt I never felt that fascinated or excited about something like that. And so, I was learning it, I was studying it, with my teacher and also by myself. And around the age of 28, 29, I think I had my first awakening. And I realized that finally realize who I am and what I want to do as a career and what is my calling. And so that's how things started. But I would say compared to a lot of let's say psychics or spiritual counselors, my development was quite late because a lot of people that I know, they realized that when they were a kid, maybe when they were 6 or 7 years old, they already, had their, first spiritual experience and things like that. I didn't. I didn't understand who I was until I was in my mid 20s. So, but now looking back, yeah, I mean, all those years that I worked in finance and I was, also in university, I studied something completely different from what I'm doing now. But I do feel that all those thoughts are connected, and some of the things that I spent years working on and also studying as a student or as a worker, they all contributed to my current career.
Let me ask you about this calling to Greek and Roman mythology. What do you think was the connection about the information in Greek and Roman mythology that drew
Mm,
you, that grabbed you?
yeah. I guess, first of all, I've always had this fascination about our past, about our history. Yeah. And I sometimes, for example, when I was 18 years old, I actually published a book in China. It's a fiction novel about, a story that happened 400 years ago. So I was also, always fascinated by the history and the past and the myth because there's always something that we didn't know about our past. Uh, and secondly, I think it doesn't really matter what era that we live in, whether it's now or thousands of years ago. We all live on this planet, and we all learn the same lessons again and again and again. And I don't really think that how we're so much different compared to our ancestors. One of the typical examples was we can say, for example, the human beings have been involved in wars for thousands of years, but seems like we have never learned our lessons about not starting a war or
Truth.
yeah, right, living harmoniously with each other. We haven't learned that until now we think we're so much more advanced compared to our ancestors, but we still make the same mistakes.
Yeah.
So I really feel that we are the same. And from the stories in Greek mythology or Roman mythology, we are learning exactly the same thing. And they give us a lot of hints or inspirations, but they're not in a way that is so um, how do we this? It's very easy for us to learn, I think, because at the end of the day, they are stories and there's magic in that. There is imagination in that. So it's also easy for us to read that without too much intensity. We can digest that easily. We find it interesting, but we also learn so many things from them. Yes.
Absolutely. Please tell us about your founding of the Healing Kingdom. What inspired this, and what do you offer those who are called to you as clients?
Mm. So I think usually, for most, let's say psychics or sometimes, some people call themselves a fortune tellers, yeah, which is, totally fine because I've met some of the most amazing fortune tellers around the world whom I also had the opportunity to study under. Um, I think what really attracted me was not just about the fortune telling or the making predictions for the future, but I was very attracted to being a therapist. And I think this has a lot to deal with, when I was born, the natal chart, my astrological natal chart has my North Node in conjunction with Chiron. And Chiron in Greek mythology was a wounded healer. He was a centaur, and it was also an herbalist, right? He used his power to heal millions of people, but ironically, he was poisoned at the end and he died. And so, usually when people have this Chiron star in conjunction with this North Node, they usually find fulfillment and growth in the art of healing or in the art of therapy. Yeah. So when I like what I said, I used to work in banks, and but when you work in banks, this kind of financial institutions, the purpose of your work is not to help people. Well, sometimes you do, but mainly it's to make money, and especially sometimes you have to make rich people richer, and that's the purpose of banking, I think. But for me, I was never fulfilled in that. And so when I realized that what I really wanted to do was to bring the art of healing to the world, to the at least the world that I live in, um, I realized that I want to start this business. And the purpose, of course, a part of it is about fortune telling. It's about making predictions. But my purpose is really to help my clients to look at their current life and their journey so far and sort of let them reflect on their own psychology, and so that we can find healing and we can find the so-called therapy through the session, and so that they will be able to create their own tool when they move forward in their life. And that's the motivation of starting the Healing Kingdom. Yeah.
As both a spiritual counselor and a professional astrologist, you've been helping clients access their intuition and individual power for many years. How do tarot and oracle readings support this work?
So I see tarot and oracle readings as powerful tools that I use to support my clients in accessing their intuition and also their personal power. I tend to focus on these powerful tools more often during the first half of the session. I call this is the stage of diagnosis. And then I will move on to the so-called counseling part, where I will combine my esoteric studies and counseling skills over the therapeutic process. I do believe that readings act as a mirror because they reflect the inner workings of the self, and they illuminate the subconscious patterns which can shape our experience. For me, tarot cards or any type of oracle cards that we use, they are effective in revealing the dynamics at play in our lives. They offer insights into our past influences, our present circumstances, and also our potential future outcomes. Um, so that's how I use them, because I do see them act as a divine guidance system that can offer immediate clarity on personal questions or the dilemmas we have. So the other thing is about is astrology. And as we all know, that astrology is the foundation of all esoteric studies. Numerology is related to it. Each tarot card is related to, is ruled by an astrological, either it's a sign or it's a planet. And so when we study tarot, oracle cards, or even numerology and mythology, we can always find their origins in astrology. And all these different ways we use are based on the Hermetic concept of as above, so below, and as within, so without, to interpret the relationships between the celestial bodies and human life. And this implies that the patterns and the movement occurring in the cosmos are mirrored here on Earth and in our lives, characters and destinies. And thus, I think in my spiritual counseling sessions, by studying the positions and aspects of the heavenly bodies, or by analyzing the card messages pulled by the client, we can gain insights into the subtle forces at play in our lives. And so as a result of this celestial symmetry, astrology and card reading can offer a framework through which we can better understand ourselves and navigate the complexities of our lives.
What sets you apart from most astrologists today?
Mm. Um, I believe that my unique approach to astrology sets me apart, yeah, from many practitioners in the field. And I think this distinction stems from my background in counseling. Um, as you know, sometimes you go to a traditional astrologer, especially I've seen a lot of Vedic astrologers focus on a lot on, let's say, the future prediction or the part of fate. For example, I live in Hong Kong, and we have a big population of Indian people here, and sometimes we have a lot of Indian clients coming to me and saying, oh, they have seen a Vedic astrologer maybe back in India or somewhere, and they were told that at a certain age they must get married. This is the time that they must do this and this. So, what my understanding about Vedic astrology is it focuses so much on fate. It focuses on, what we must do at certain timing. But as a spiritual counselor, what I want to believe in, and also I think this would work a lot better for people in general, is that there is a sense of fate in there. But we really want to focus on how we can use our own action, our own change of our mentality and our attitude to create the future that we want, rather than purely rely on the so-called destiny, even though there is the destiny there. And so I think this is very important when we bring the counseling part into an astrology session or a tarot card session. It's about empowering people rather than telling them this is your fate and deal with it or not. You know what I mean? And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, so I think, yeah, and I think that's the difference. And that's why, even though I was trained by a traditional fortune teller, when I was living in Sydney, Australia, about, I would say, 4 years after I started my practice, I realized I really wanted to study counseling systematically. So that's how I started my master degree in psychological counseling. And through that course, and I was really able to gain the knowledge and also learn the practice actually in modern day counseling. And I was fortunate to uh, actually, intern in different, clinics and really see actual patients in clinics who are looking for, psychological counseling. And that really helped me a lot in my own practice, I think.
How has astrology changed since its beginnings in ancient Mesopotamia?
Mm. So Australia has this long history, I think. I think it originated in the Mesopotamia time around, third third millennium BC, and then they spread it to India, and then spread it to many different countries into Greece and other countries. I think when we read the old astrology books, right? I mean, or the things related to the old astrology articles, and we can see that it was a lot more rigid. Like what I said, it focused a lot on the so-called prediction techniques, and it's about what happens, and because the stars are moving in this way, that's why this will happen, right? That's why the king will die. That's why there will be a flood. I think these days, when we look at astrology, personally, I don't really believe that astrology predicts our future, even though I am an astrologer. I believe that it's more sort of like astrology, they're a little bit like a mirror. They're reflecting our human mind. And so they don't really control us. We are not being led by the stars, right? Let's say now, for example, Pluto has just moved into Aquarius this month. And so that's why now, our thinking are, changed, and now we're all about, the AI technology, revolution, things like that. But I do feel that modern tech, astrology has developed into a different, explanation, right, about the sky. And we're really looking at the synchronicity between the celestial realm and us. So it's not about they decide our life or we decide their movement, but it's more about we come to this understanding that everything works in harmony, and they work sort of like in synchronicity with each other. And when certain things are moving to certain positions, and there are certain things happening in our human society, and it's almost like we're each other's mirror. And that's how I see the difference between the modern astrology and the traditional or the old astrology from hundreds of years ago.
You've created an amazing new deck, the Oracle of the Mythic Heroes, in which you combine astrology, crystals, zodiac signs, Greek and Roman mythology, and much more. How are each of these divination tools connected, and how do they work together?
Yeah, so I'm really happy about this deck, yeah, which has just been published the beginning of January this year with Beyond Words Publishing. For me, each of these divination tools, right, that you mentioned, astrology, crystals, and zodiac signs, um, through their though I think they're all unique in their own way, and but the int important thing is they're intricately interconnected through a shared object, which is to offer guidance, introspection, and a deeper understanding of the self and the universe. So astrology and zodiac signs tend to map out our personality traits, our strength, the challenges based on celestial patterns. Well, the crystals in the book, I think they help us harness the energy of the earth to bring the balance and clarity. So you can see astrology and crystals mirror each other just like the sky and the earth. And mythology in the book is a very, very important part because you can also see the guidebook of Oracle of the Mythic Heroes as my own rendition of 40 different mythological stories. I believe they provide us with a time-tested wisdom through the personified deities and the heroes. Some of them are quite complex, like what I said in the book, none of them are perfect. They all struggle, and some of them, they gain their victory, but later, they fall again, right? So it's almost like they keep going through the wheel of fortune, the cycle of life. And I think by studying these stories and the narratives, we gain insights into the human condition, and they help us understand our emotions, our actions, and motivations better. Um, the gods and the heroes and the mythical creatures, which I carefully selected in this deck, embody different aspects of our psyche and make them the powerful symbols in our psychoanalytic studies. So when we combine all these things together, we create a comprehensive toolkit for our self-discovery and spiritual growth. And if I may use an analogy, I think all of these things, they coexist like notes in a symphony, and each playing their unique part, but together they form a harmonious melody that guide us on our path.
Beautiful. My guest is Letao Wang. He's the creator of the new Oracle of the Mythic Heroes. Letao, please tell our listeners where they find out more about you and your amazing work.
Thank you. So if you're interested in exploring this deck of cards, you can find this easily on Amazon. Simply just type in Oracle of the Mythic Heroes. You will find it. You can also go on my publisher's website, Beyond Words Publishing, and you can also order that directly from the publisher's website. My website is www.thehealingkingdom.com.
And we'll be back with more of Letao after these words on the Om Times Radio Network.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Back on Destination Unlimited, my guest this week, Letao Wang. He's the creator of the beautiful and wonderful Oracle of the Mythic Heroes. Letao, you share that there are three heroes for each of the sun signs. My sun sign is Capricorn. What heroes are associated with the goat?
So there are many different archetypes that we can look at because even when we talk about Capricorn, right, it's not just one dimensional. We can look at Capricorn from different angles. If usually when we look at a lot of the past astrological analysis, I've seen a lot of astrologers or mythologists associate the constellation sign Capricorn with Pan. So Pan is a Greek deity. He was the Greek god of mountains and nature and trees. And he dances, he drinks, he's such a hedonist, right? in Greek mythology. But he is a little bit like this goat-looking god, right? Because he has the human face, but he has a goat body. And a lot of people would associate him with Capricorn. And sometimes people ask, but Capricorn is such a hardworking energy, right? People say Capricorn people are very goal-oriented. They are very hardworking. How can you associate Capricorn with Pan? And so this has a lot to do with tarot, right? Because in tarot cards, actually, so there's a card that rules the Capricorn, which is the devil card. Now, there's nothing scary about the devil card, but usually when we look at the devil card, we're talking about, in a good way, this is about our obsession towards something, right? Right. So if you're talking about a career goal or something that we really want to pursue, the devil card could be something that is very, very helpful because it needs you to focus 100% on this thing that you want. And so it's almost like you become obsessed with it, right? And that's how it's associated. And the devil, in Mythic tarot, the god actually depicted on the devil's card is Pan. Now, in my book, because my Oracle of the Mythic Heroes is mainly talking about the mortals and human stories, so there are three heroes that I have written to associate with the sign of Capricorn. The first one is Agnes, and his keyword is foundation. And the second hero is Sisyphus, and the related keyword is called burden because he had to push the rock, right, up hills all the time. And the last hero related to Capricorn, which is more, I would say, it's easier for people to understand why this is Capricorn, is Leonidas. And the keyword for him is perseverance. And we can all see his perseverance and his sense of, his courage and his tenacity in the movie The 300, in which he led the 300 soldiers, Spartan soldiers, to fight against the Persian invasion.
Absolutely. You talk about Capricorns being into details, and you talked about the devil, and as they say, the devil is in the details often.
Correct. So. Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes it's very funny because in the reading, sometimes, the devil card would show up, right? And the client gets so freaked out. And they're like, oh my God, what is this? What's wrong? And I'll be like, calm down. There's no devil really out there. But sometimes, the devil is really showing that our obsession or our needs to chase something or to get something. And it all depends on how you channel this energy. Sometimes, to be honest, we all need a little bit devil energy in us in order to find our success.
And you talked about Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill and it rolls back down and he has to push it up again. And you talked about persistence. And I think that really sort of emphasizes the nature of my life and my experience. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Yeah, well, that's Capricorn, right? But by the way, do you know your moon sign?
Yes, Aquarius.
Aquarius. Okay, so the sign of the future, technology.
Yep, absolutely.
Interesting.
So, Sun in Capricorn, Moon in Aquarius, and Cancer ascendant.
Oh, you're Cancer rising. Oh, interesting.
That's right.
Okay, so you've got the Earth, you've got the air energy, and you also got the water energy there. Interesting.
And as a dear friend of mine, an astrologer friend of mine said, I'm a hot mess.
Well, interesting. Well, usually when we look at, sun, moon, ascendant, right? People ask, so, what do they mean? Okay, does that just mean that I have three signs in us? Usually I see these three different, signs in us. It's the sun is really showing what you are living your life to be. The sun is almost like the future goal there, right? So we're walking towards the sun, and your moon sign is something that you are born with because the moon is about your natural instinct. Usually, if you consult an astrologer, they will tell you the moon sign represents your family, your early childhood. Sometimes talking about your mother, sometimes talking about your emotional reaction. And the one thing that is very interesting about our emotion reaction is that we don't learn that. Your emotional reaction is something that naturally in you. And I always use this example. For example, let's say you're driving your car, right? And someone maybe beeped you, from behind. What is your reaction towards that, right? And definitely, the moon sign in Aries people will be more explosive. But the moon sign in Libra people, the first thing they react is, okay, I want to, resolve this issue through diplomatic negotiation. So, the moon sign is something that we were born with, but the sun was something we have to learn. And that is why a lot of people, when they come to a consultation, they say, I cannot relate to my sun sign, right? For example, some people say, let's say, I'm a Cancer, but I don't love children, right? I don't want children, but I don't understand why I'm a Cancer. So that has a lot to do with that, because the sun sign is not something you're naturally born with. The moon is something a lot of people can associate more at an early stage. And the ascendant is the path that you need to walk towards your sun, pretty much.
Let's share a few other of the mythical characters and the relationship in the cards. Please share with us the myth of Theseus, and how does this guide those seeking to be stronger leaders?
Right. So Theseus, I wrote this hero as the first chapter in Oracle of the Mythic Heroes. And he's associated zodiac sign is Aries, which is also the first sign on the astrological wheel. We all know Theseus is widely regarded as a great leader in Greek mythology because of his heroic feats, his strategic intellect, and also his noble character. He is most famous for slaying the Minotaur, which is a fearsome beast, which resided in the labyrinth of Crete. Theseus successfully navigated the complex maze on his own, which showcases his resourcefulness and also his courage. And secondly, I think his leadership was also evident in his role as a king of Athens after the Minotaur journey. He significantly contributed to the political and the social reformation of the city-state, Athens. His commitment to justice, combined with his bravery and his wisdom, cement his legacy as an amazing leader in Greek myth. So you can see how this sets him apart from heroes such as, let's say, Jason or Bellerophon, who played a role more or less of a warrior instead of a king. And so that's the difference. For example, one of the differences is, a king has to take responsibility. Unlike, for example, Jason, after becoming the king, he pretty much didn't do much about, his kingdom. And so I think this is the part about Theseus that is really honorable, because he was not just, about his courage, okay, he slayed the Minotaur, but also he really, took the responsibility of a king, and he developed Athens. Yeah.
Orpheus was a bard, a musician, and a prophet. If someone draws the card of Orpheus, what message might they need to hear?
Well, I have to say Orpheus is one of my favorite Greek mythology characters so far. I mean, I always have so much admiration towards this figure. Just in case our audience don't know about him, he's a legendary figure known for his extraordinary musical talent. This figure sends a powerful spiritual message about healing and the power of love, actually. First of all, if we read the stories even before his love of Eurydice, Orpheus never really played his lyre or lyre for entertainment purposes or attention. He played it to heal the people around him as a therapy. In astrology, creativity and performance are usually ruled by Leo, because Leo symbolizes our desire to take the center stage, to be in the limelight and get the attention and applause we need. But it's a bit like I'm standing in the center and it's, the Leo energy. Yeah. It's a bit like I'm standing in the center and all eyes are on me. But in Oracle of the Mythic Heroes, we can see that the ruling zodiac for Orpheus is not Leo, it's Cancer. And Cancer is it's an emotional sign. And this is why Orpheus' music was not about being showy or entertaining, but it was more about being loving, nurturing, and protective. We can also see this from his participation with the Argonauts, with Jason, and later his assistance to Odysseus in Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. And his musical instrument, the lyre, was more like his own weapon to protect his friends and his allies from the harm of the sirens. So the most important story about him was also his journey into the underworld. He dared to venture into the underworld for the love of his wife, Eurydice. And this story teaches us about the depths that we're willing to traverse for healing, love, and transformation. And this tale encourages personal healing by urging us to confront our fears. As we all know, the underworld is scary, so that we need to face the darkness and the shadows in us to bring back the light. Much like Orpheus and his journey to the underworld. And so now we can learn from his failed attempt to save his wife. He looked back at the soul of Eurydice despite Hades warned him. Why? Because he couldn't trust. So on the surface level, it was about him not trusting Hades. But metaphorically, it was about him not trusting himself, as the underworld is really the symbol of our deepest subconsciousness. So I think when it comes to healing, his story also prompts us to question ourselves. What can we not trust, and where does that come from?
And also, you share the connection between the crystal emerald and the story of Orpheus. What is the message there?
Well, emerald crystal is famous for its heart healing properties. It resonates with, the message of Orpheus profoundly, I think. It is known to promote emotional balance, healing, and abundance, the qualities that align with Orpheus' tale of love and transformation. And I think by embracing the emerald crystal's energy, you can use it for your meditation, or simply carry it with you. We can foster the courage needed to face our inner darkness, just like Orpheus, leading us to our profound healing and personal transformation.
Now, when we think of Medusa, we envision the Gorgon with snakes for hair and the ability to turn those who looked upon her into stone. What might the universe be telling us if we draw the card for Medusa?
Um, this is another very, very interesting figure, right, in Greek mythology. Some people really love Medusa. Some people are very scared of her. I think Medusa carries this profound spiritual and psychological symbolism. She represents the dark and the primal aspect of the human psyche. She embodies the concept of the shadow, which is which is repressed and denied in us often. And sometimes it can also cause a lot of destructive behaviors and traits. The snake hair that she has represents the intertwining of fear, desire, and danger. It serves as a reminder to all of us that our deepest fear are often closely intertwined with our greatest desires and can lead us down dangerous path if left unchecked. And also think Medusa's gaze that, we all know her gaze could turn anyone who looks at her into stone. We can also see this as a warning against being consumed by one's own ego and vanity. And when this card shows up, for example, in a reading, and I think it's a call from our higher self to tell us to confront our inner shadows. In the myth, the goddess of wisdom, Athena, instructed Perseus, the famous hero, to use a polished shield as a mirror to defeat Medusa. So we can see the observation through the mirror, this mirror-like shield by Perseus to defeat Medusa serves as a metaphor. It teaches us to confront and conquer our inner struggles through our reflection and honesty. And actually the key word for this Medusa card in this in Oracle of the Mythic Heroes is called reflection. It is about finding that shiny mirror in us so that we can reflect and destroy that darkness in us.
The idea of turning to stone, we're really talking about the heart turning to stone, to close the heart, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, that's because I think a lot of in actual counseling sessions, whenever we see the first card, coming out as a Medusa, they're usually saying that there's something being closed in the client's heart. For sure. A very typical example that I can give to you is, let's say, several weeks ago, I had a client who was, who came to me and told me she felt very stuck. And her first card was Medusa. And then when I asked her what happened, and she said she's a female client in her mid-40s, and she has never been married. And, she had a very, traumatizing experiences in dating. But, around that age, and she felt she has lost hope in love. And I asked her, I said, why would you say that? And she said, because I just don't see it. I don't see anyone will be with me. I don't see why people, because she said, I learned from my history, but nobody really wanted me. And I really think that's the Medusa in us. It's almost like we're closing that door for us, assuming that nothing can happen based on our history alone. And I think the so-called Athena's shiny mirror, it's about we have to look at ourselves. Sometimes I tell my clients to literally look into the mirror every morning. And so that sometimes you look at yourself, you realize that I don't want to, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to live like this. And I don't want to tell myself these kind of things. And so I really think mirror could be used as a very good tool for our self-reflection. Yeah.
Especially if we don't see snakes in our hair, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
My guest is Letao Wang. His book is called The Oracle of the Mythic Heroes, and the cards within it are absolutely beautiful. We'll be back with more after these words on the Om Times Radio Network.
Humanity Healing International is a small nonprofit with a big dream. Since 2007, HHI has been working tirelessly to bring help to communities with little or no hope. Our projects are not broad mandates, nor are they overnight solutions, but they bring the reassurance that no one is alone and that someone cares. To learn more, please visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio. Back on Destination Unlimited, my guest this week is Letao Wang, the creator of the Oracle of the Mythic Heroes. Letao, tell us about Psyche and the message that she brings.
Psyche comes from a very interesting story, and this is a story loved by many, many people because this is a love story and it has a beautiful ending. So Psyche in the story, she fell in love with god of love, Eros, or sometimes people know this god more as a Cupid, right? So the love angel, the son of Aphrodite or Venus, and her journey in this story is very eventful because Aphrodite, the mother of Eros, was very much against this union, and so Psyche has to go through all the trials and tribulations in order to prove her love towards Eros. And eventually the story had a beautiful ending. The last task that Aphrodite gave to Psyche was to go down to the underworld to face, because underworld is where dead people go to. And generally speaking, mortals are not allowed to enter the realm of the underworld. There is, for example, the three-headed dog, Cerberus, guarding the door, the gate of the underworld, and it's deep and it's dark and it's scary, right? And there are souls, floating around. So for Psyche, a young girl, a mortal girl, to descend into the underworld, it requires her to forfeit a lot of the things. And so this whole journey is about her, her own transformation, how she left from a girl, she became a goddess through this journey, and how she, through her own transformation, achieved her goal to be with Eros. There's also one more thing that I want to share about Psyche. I think she's very interesting because Psyche actually is in ancient Greek language, it means our soul. And so it's almost like, this transformation journey for Psyche is also about finding her soul, finding who she really is. And so when a client pulls out this card, and I really think that what the client is going through is an eventful period of time, maybe they also need to descend into their own, the so-called underworld for their own transformation, so that they will be able to come out and finish their transformation from, let's say, a mortal girl to a goddess.
How do these cards bridge our relationship between our physical being and intuitive selves?
Um, well, I think each card in Oracle of the Mythic Heroes serves as a powerful bridge between our our physical being and our intuitive self. This allows us to tap into the unseen wisdom of the universe. They stimulate our subconscious mind. They bring forth insights and a guidance often overlooked in our daily lives. And by posing questions to the oracle cards and interpreting the symbolic messages of each card that we draw, we engage in a dynamic conversation with our inner selves, actually. And this can also spark an exploration of our deepest thoughts and feelings. This helps us to cultivate a stronger alignment, I think, between our physical actions and our intuitive guidance, fostering personal growth and our self-awareness. One of the practice I always tell my clients to do is a daily card draw, because cultivating this habit can prove to be a transformative practice. It is a powerful means to self-discovery and enlightenment, offering us daily guidance and insights. Sometimes it does not have to be about something really grand, but that one message or that on that one card could really change the way we deal with our daily activities. And I think this can really help us to either avoid making certain mistakes. Sometimes it just gives us more confidence and it gives us a more positive attitude towards our daily operation. Yeah.
We had touched upon earlier how the position of the moon in our birth charts affects us, but how the lunar cycles and the moon's phases affect us on a regular basis.
So the moon's movement, the lunar cycle actually has been studied by many, many astrologers. And one of my favorite astrologers, and unfortunately, she already passed away many years ago and wrote a book about the lunar cycle, right? And her name, I remember her name, was Jane Spiller. Um, I was really fascinated by his book. So when we look at the lunar journey, right? We know the moon goes around the earth around, let's say 28 to, let's say 29 days, 30 days. And this 30 days journey or 28 days journey, the moon will start from its new moon phase, which is a dark moon. That's the time when the moon is having a conjunction with the sun. And slowly we're seeing a crescent and we're seeing a half moon. And then 14 days later, we achieve the full moon in the sky. And each moon phase represents, they have different, let's say, spiritual meanings. The new moon is the birth of a new moon cycle in a specific constellation sign. And that's the reason why we sometimes hear terms like new moon in Aries, right? New moon in Taurus or new moon in Gemini, things like that. And each month we have this new moon. And when the moon starts its journey in its own lunar cycle, it's a refreshment. It represents the starting point of something, and when we need to grow something. And so it's always encouraged for us to make wishes on new moon day, right? So that when the moon is still new and refreshed and fragile. And when 14 days later, the moon becomes full, and that's the culmination of the lunar cycle. And that's a time for reflection, because a full moon literally looks like a bright, shiny mirror to us. And so what we reflect on, then we also have to look at the constellation sign that the full moon is in. Sometimes we also hear terms such as full moon in Libra or full moon in Scorpio. And depending on the sign the full moon is, and we gain some type of insights about what this full moon needs us to reflect on or balance.
You share that there are cosmic laws and universal regularities. How may we embrace these and lead the lives that we were born for?
I think it's really about the so-called synchronicities, right? That we talked about earlier. I think the so-called cosmic regularities is about learning how to work together with the stars. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be about the stars, to be honest. I think a lot of things in our life are all synchronized together. This could be as simple as you walk down the street and you see, sometimes, we see numbers on the street. Let's say, a 333, right? Or a 4 1s, things like that. And I think it's about us constantly being aware of the messages that are around us and giving us time to reflect on what these signs and or sometimes if you study astrology, this could also be about you observing the movement of the planets. And sometimes just to remind ourselves that what does that mean to me, right? When a certain planet is moving to a certain position, forming a certain aspect with a different planet, and this is how we learn to live together with the synchronicity or the cosmic regularity, I think. And a lot of the times, for example, in the ancient days, right, that's what human used to do. We didn't have those, skyscrapers. The sky was clear. Nothing was blocking our view. So our ancestors was watching the stars every day, every night. Everything is just in front of us now. We live in 2024. We have so many things to look at, and so we don't really, when was the last time, you raised your head and you were thinking, okay, I wonder where Jupiter is. It's nowadays we don't do that enough, and so I think it's more about bringing the awareness of observation and of our universe and observing, just generally speaking, the world around us to find that synchronicity. Yeah.
You've said, and I quote, "The universe needs a humanity that is harmonious and has a strong sense of unity. We are all in this together, and we can overcome any challenge." What would you offer those who are worried about the state of humanity and the challenging and often heart-wrenching events that we're all experiencing?
So, on the back of the book, right, the guidebook of Oracle of the Mythic Heroes, this is what I wrote. I said, no heroes are perfect, neither are they utterly invincible in the myth. They love, they hate, they struggle, they fail, and they rise again together with the cosmic wheel of fortune. And I think this is what it is. Sometimes when we look at the world, the real world around us, we can all be a little bit disillusioned because we see the heart-wrenching news. We see what is happening, around us, and more often than not, it upsets us, right? Whether that's political news or let's say related to families, relationships. Sometimes we also hear these kind of stories from our friends and families, and we wonder, what is this world about? Aren't we supposed to live harmoniously and happily together? And I really feel that perhaps at this moment, we are still learning. Like what I said at the very beginning of our interview, we're still learning the lessons our ancestors were learning. Because after thousands of years, we're still making the same mistakes. And this is in a good way. It's about there are still things for us to learn, and there are still things for us to understand what works for humanity and what doesn't. And I think if each one of us could look at this in a more rational and logical way, we would be able to overcome a lot of the let's say challenges, which are not necessarily which were not really necessary to us, to be honest, because a lot of the lessons we didn't really need to learn them so many times, I think, yeah, but we're still learning them. Absolutely. And so, right, so we can overcome them if we can really look at this from a rational perspective rather than only looking at what we desire and what is best for us. And I have to be honest, a lot of the political news in Asia, right? The issues, I'm not going to name the countries, right? So, okay, this is my island. This is my territory, right? This is your territory, things like that. But sometimes I look at, I watch this news and thinking, but, from the perspective of our universe, we're just all living on this small blue ball floating in the nowhere in the universe. And we're fighting about that land. I think probably aliens are laughing at us. That literally, I really feel like that. The alien thinking, it's almost like us watching 2-3-year-old kids fighting over an apple.
Yeah.
right? So we're gonna think, yeah, right, okay, well, whatever, right? Who's Apple? Who cares? Nobody cares about that. But somehow for us, it's so important. This island is mine. You cannot send your military there. This is my territory, right? And this is my country. You belong to us. That kind of mentality. But when we really look at the view from our universe, the whole Earth is a dust floating in the nowhere. And so what are we fighting for? So I think if all of us can really look at life from this perspective, probably we will feel less selfish. Yeah.
Absolutely. My guest, Letao Wang, his new creation, The Oracle of the Mythic Heroes. One more time, please share with our listeners where they can get your deck and find out more about you and your wonderful work.
Right. So you can find Oracle of the Mythic Heroes on Amazon. Simply type Oracle of the Mythic Heroes as your search words, and you will find it easily. You can also find it on my website, www.thehealingkingdom.com. You can also access the publisher's website, Beyond Words Publishing, and you can also order your copy from their website.
Letao, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your work and your wisdom.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you for joining us on Destination Unlimited. I'm Victor, the Voice Herman. Have a wonderful week.